Hi everyone, welcome to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
I'm Landon.
I'm Kason.
And we actually have one kind of new thing we're going to be doing on the podcast. Now, it's going to come at the end, but just make sure you stay tuned at the end. We're going to do something involving this helmet and papers inside of it. It's a new feature, but you will be able to participate in future episodes, so keep an eye out. These are our topics for today. First of all, we're going to be doing some predictions for the Final Fantasy event that'll be happening here in the next week. Lots and lots and lots of stuff that they could show us regarding Final Fantasy VII Remake and a bunch of other stuff that they're planning to release this year.
And Chocobo Moogle Party.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most anticipated game of all time.
Absolutely.
Then we'll talk about this rumor. No, this is not a rumor, because he actually came out and said it. Aluma said that the Zelda will have more than one ending. Have a secret ending in it.
Depending on what you do.
That's interesting. We'll talk about
Gotta get that
what
true
that could
ending.
be. All right, then we have questions from the audience. First one comes from Cynthia Chow, I think it is. I have a question for a future podcast. In a number of your videos, you mentioned Final Fantasy's instrumental music. What are your thoughts on the game's vocal themes and their evolution throughout the series? Good question. Next one comes from Captain Awesome. Do you think the desire for games to be open world or sandbox is a permanent trend? I feel that games are just throwing it out there in place of quality, story, and characters, and people eat it up. Okay, we'll talk about that. Last one is Roberto
Robertosek.
Do you think that Nintendo will focus more on multiplayer games or experiences now that they have they plan to implement a paid online service?
Yeah. Final Fantasy event coming up, guys. 30th?
Is it Tuesday or when is it? Monday?
If it's on the 30th, it's Monday. But
Next Monday.
Yeah.
Last day of January.
Once again,
Second to last.
they will be doing this on at a time that I probably have to be working.
Yeah,
It's always Japan time. Why is Japan so important to these
Come on,
companies?
guys. Yeah. Why do they care so much?
Cater to the West.
But there have been some rumors about things that they're gonna reveal there. I think one of the more exciting ones is Final Fantasy 1 through 9 on a single disc
One Blu-ray.
that you can play on PS4. Very, very interesting. Obviously a lot of people speculating whether the Final Fantasy VII Remake will come out this year or not.
Right. If nothing else, I think you could expect there will be some new footage.
There should be a trailer. It's been about a year,
bare minimum,
right, since we've seen
Yeah, I
anything
believe
from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Back in,
They've
like,
been working on it.
August or something that Nomura had said he really wanted to clarify things about the battle system, and he was like, I want to show that off in December at probably PlayStation's
Right, PS6.
experience.
Right, yeah.
But obviously they didn't have it ready for then. So I expect that will be a heavy focus of this, is really focusing on how gameplay will work in this game.
The date kind of signifies that it has to be the case. It's really weird if it's not.
Right.
Isn't it the actual
it's the day.
anniversary of the release of Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII's Japanese release was January 30th, 1997.
Yeah.
So it's a big year for that, and then this as a whole is the 30th anniversary basically
Of all of Final Fantasy. Yeah.
So I guess that's probably going to be their big focus in general.
Yeah.
Is just the general Final Fantasy anniversary.
I would
So,
hope
the-
that this
the
event kind
rumored
of centered on that.
package with all the games should totally be a thing. That I feel like that's basically been confirmed. It's been like leaked so freaking heavily that that's what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, but I do think that the fact that it is the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII, means that they will have major things to announce about Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it's the right time for that. It's it's their next major. I mean, unless you're talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, their next
does not appear to be coming
Yeah.
along super efficiently at the moment.
We shouldn't get any Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff from this, right? They've said that it's a Final Fantasy conference.
Well, have they? I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure
just
it's
Square
I'm
Enix
pretty sure it's
Nintendo?
just
Final Fantasy?
It's on the
stuff.
date, and because they're going to talk about their plans for the year for this whole.
Okay, then we may not see Kingdom Hearts 3, although, Kingdom Hearts 3 does have Final Fantasy elements mixed in it. It's possible, but not likely.
I am very interested to know how exactly Nomura is directing 2 games at once.
Or how he was directing 4 at once before.
Now,
Like, he's been doing this for a while and has not actually released any of them yet, so who knows?
we do know that for Final Fantasy VII Remake that a lot of the work is being outsourced.
Yes.
So that's probably helpful. Maybe he's focusing mostly his time and effort on Kingdom Hearts 3.
He
And
did
sort of just managing Final Fantasy VII's.
Yeah.
He had another interview recently. Nomura was saying how difficult it kind of is to communicate with the out-of-office people.
I saw
in-office
that,
people,
yeah. And how
that's-
it can make things take longer.
Yeah, it's slowing things down. a
That's
little
right.
bit,
He just
so.
said that a day or two ago. In fact, another piece of info that kind of makes me think Final Fantasy VII Remake may not be coming this year. We feel like it will be. However, what
it's
Nomura
not,
is
I
saying,
just
he's
don't get
prepping
it.
people for a big no on the 2017 release.
He's setting the
window.
bar.
He's just
Okay.
making sure he's like, hey guys,
Do-
this is taking longer than expected. We're having to do this and this, and
So-
I apologize.
What do you guys think the odds are that this conference comes and goes and there's still not a release date for that game?
I would be.
If it comes out this
surprised,
year, there
yeah.
should be a date. If not, there won't be.
I would be surprised if. I mean, because it is episodic, and the fact that it's episodic
Exactly.
leads me to think that like the company executives at least would be like, well, then just keep,
Whittle it down.
Right. That's true.
but get it out this year.
Yeah.
So
And that's the funny thing. If this one is not going to come out this year, and they've been working on it for maybe by the end of this year, maybe close to 4 years that they've been doing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Is that what we would expect for each episode? Will it be 4 years between each episode?
Or will they have most of the assets,
Right.
Yeah, I
game,
think
the
maybe
battle
well, the
system
characters
worked
and
out,
system.
and then maybe the other ones. Will
What
be
were
quicker.
the
depends
differences
on what's holding
in
them up
release
right now.
from Final Fantasy 13 to 13.2 to Lightning Returns? There was like
They're about
2 years.
2 years apart, right?
Yeah.
I would expect something similar
2. I wouldn't go more than 2.
for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, more than 2 would be weird because you're going to span into the next console generation.
Well, maybe that is part of what would be influencing the decision also then. To if you release episode 1 without having anything done on episode 2 yet, other than your basic, skeleton of what you've made for episode 1, they may want to be a certain ways into episode 2 before they even release episode 1 so that they can ensure that they're not going to have delays for the episodes, and that could create some problems.
It's definitely one of the biggest video game projects ever undertaken, I feel like.
Yeah.
To break this up and what it is and supposedly to get
Which
this
it
attention to
didn't
detail.
need to be.
Yeah.
Let me just put that out there right now.
One
It didn't need
thing
to
that
be the
has to be a big
biggest-
factor is the animation, though.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot. I don't know, like how can you?
Well, if you're
going to
go for this hyper realism, then
Yeah.
you've got to be on point with those,
and that's going to take a long time, right?
Oh, yeah. Which is why they maybe shouldn't have necessarily gone that way. But
I don't know. I'll be curious to see future people watching this podcast from the year 2020
Yes.
laugh at us, but I would be curious to see are they going to keep the battle system the same across
for all episodes,
the releases, or are they going to? I think the general concept's probably
that's
the same, right? But it would be interesting to see if they
question.
tweak it as they move on. So that if you were to play through all of them, there's some different elements. Maybe they'll keep materia, I don't know, out of it in this one and bring it in the next one. And that wouldn't really make any sense, but I don't know.
But things like that, I mean,
Build
there's
on
always minor tweaks
Because otherwise, this game will establish the framework that all the games will follow.
that they have.
So
to,
they
even
should be able to
into
stick to a
the
2-year.
PS5. Because if we're talking 2 years from the end of this year, then it's 2021 by the time Episode 3 comes out. I feel like that's cutting into PS5 territory, given that the PS4 came out in 2012. That's 9 years later.
Have they said how many episodes
2013.
it will be?
I believe it's 3, right?
I don't know if they've definitively said 3, but I do remember that they've said
I thought it
something
was
about
3.
3.
3 would make
I
sense.
feel like early when they announced it, what's his name? Kitase said something about 3 episodes. But I don't know if it was
is-
like this is for definitely
Right.
going to be 3 parts.
Well, then maybe
or
that's
not.
something we'll hear about.
Maybe they'll
on
clarify
this-
that a
on
bit,
this event.
how the episodic nature will work. Because if they broke it up even more than that, then they could
That would
definitely...
be crazy.
They could, like, if each part wasn't a fully featured $60,
if they
60-hour-long game, like
Right.
they've originally said. Like that, maybe that could have changed by now. If it's more like
that's possible.
this is gonna be like a telltale game sort of episodic release thing,
yeah.
where it's like each part is
Like
a shorter
20-ish,
experience.
15.
But
I know they won't want to like dilute their premium, like what
Well,
Nintendo
yeah,
does.
I
They'll
mean-
want this is a high quality game. It's sold at the high quality price, and
Oh, right.
I
delete the
feel
brand.
like
Yeah,
image.
it would be interesting because you will see a drop off between episodes. There will
Yeah.
be a certain amount of people who will buy episode 1, and they will not all return to buy episode 2. Episode
Yeah.
2 will sell less.
it's
Yeah.
a
Then
risk. Yeah,
episode
it's an
one.
initial.
Generally speaking, that's how sequels work. That's
Mm-hmm.
how episodes work for games.
Unless they change it up,
So-
right? Unless they make it different enough for the second one that it's like you played the first
But
one.
see, and that's
but-
what we're talking about here. How similar are they going to be, especially by the time 2021 comes around and the developers won't be able to help themselves? The PS5 hardware is going to be able to do different things than the PS4, and they're going to have all these options for Episode 3. So, like, I don't know, who knows how they're going to handle
I
that.
really do wonder when PS5 will be coming out.
Because we're a good almost 4 years into this console generation.
Yeah.
So
It's got to be. I know that one thing that certain execs at at Microsoft have said is that they don't want to continue developing hardware in the way it's been done in the past, where every 5 years or 8 years or
they want
whatever,
to stretch it out more.
that you buy a whole new thing. They want
Upgradable.
They want an upgradable thing where you just buy this thing, kind of like what phones. Well, phones you still
Yeah.
buy an entirely new phone. Every
I don't
year,
know
but-
that the Xbox One can do that. I think it would have to
Yeah,
be from
they-
the
they-
next
I think-
iteration
yeah.
on.
I believe
Yeah.
that's what he was inferring is
Okay,
that
yeah.
they release a console, which might be this Scorpio thing.
It
that
could be.
Yeah.
could
I'm
be
interested to see what that
upgraded
is.
every couple years or something.
Yeah.
And that way devs don't have to get an entirely new piece of hardware to learn how to work with
And that's
every
where-
few years. And
That's where I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just thinking
It's gonna get
that's PC.
complicated.
That is what
Exactly.
PC is.
Yeah.
That's already what it is. So just make a PC and then make PC games.
And on the box, they're always like, you have to have this version of Windows, you have to have at least this much RAM, you have to have at least this graphics card, you have to have at least this much space.
The appeal
and
of
that's
consoles
the thing, that
is-
consoles are simple. And
Yeah, they're simple,
When you
they're
add that
straightforward.
customization there, all of a sudden it's like, hey, you look at your games and you're like, does this run on my customized GPU plus RAM plus hard drive capacity plus, version of the Xbox software or whatever?
yeah.
I wonder if
It can get
they'll
kinda
build it to where it can
complicated.
be, well, I mean, at least between one iteration of the specs and the last, whether the last people can still play it. The difference between a PS3 game and a PS4 game is you cannot play that PS4 game on your PS3 at all.
Right.
But this would be you can play the same game, you're just going to have to run it on low. And these people can run
Which
it on Ultra or something.
is essentially what we're already seeing with the Pro and the Scorpio.
yeah.
There's
Right.
just going to be those different modes. So I guess this is going to be a test run to see if the public accepts or rejects that. I think the Pro has sold well enough.
It's sold better than I thought it would.
And the Pro and the Scorpio might extend the life of this console generation, enough that it won't be as short as past ones. But I know these
might.
companies, they always hope for these console generations to be
long.
Like
Yeah.
the PlayStation 3, they were like, this thing is going to last at least 10 years.
10 years, yeah. That's
But
what
it
their
ended
whole
up
thing.
being 6, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. It's so that is an interesting question. Will the last installment of this game look so much better than the first installment by the time it comes out?
yeah.
If there's 3 of them and if they're spaced out 2 years, so we're looking 6 years in the future if the first one comes out this year.
And that's just based on how long it's taken just for this first one. But what if they are currently working on episode 2 and maybe they could do annual?
Year after year.
And that would be what I'd prefer, obviously, have them quicker, I guess.
Yeah.
But gosh, I mean, who knows? These games tend to have lots of issues and take a really long time.
This is a brave new frontier. Nobody's really done this before that I can think.
Right.
Destiny, I guess, kind of has tried to do something similar.
But don't they have Destiny 2 coming out soon now?
They do. Yeah.
That didn't last 10 years.
No, that's
No,
right. They were
right,
saying
that
10
was
years for that one
supposed
too.
to
They were
be
saying 10
But
years.
they
They
have
want the
had-
game to last 10
They
years.
have had a couple, I think there's an expansion every year. So I guess that's like an MMO in that sense. It's just... So same
I'll
game,
be
just some
honest,
new content for it.
there is a certain appeal to that idea, I think, from a developer standpoint. I just don't know how, actually feasible it is.
Yeah.
Like, I've thought about that too. It's like, if I ever released a game, and say it was, rather than turning it into like a game trilogy or like a series, I would be really interested in trying to develop something that, like a game that, has its first act, come to an end in that game. But the second act is literally an expansion that you buy.
Yeah.
And you can release a second sort of like, what do you call it? Like, print of the game that includes the second part in it, but it's still one game. And then when the third one comes out, you release a third print that's still one game. But the people who originally bought it get them at a reduced price.
That is very, very. That's essentially what The Witcher 3 kind of did.
Yeah, with its expansions.
A couple. The next one.
They're
the next one.
Yeah, they're not like fully like as large as the original game was, and I think that.
So you're saying...
I'm saying like a whole
like
game.
a 60-hour...
like a sequel to the game that's a whole game.
That's probably what Call of Duty should have been doing.
That you buy for the same price as a new game, but it's not
what Call of Duty did.
They just release a new game every year. Yeah.
But it's still being developed. Because like one thing that bothers me is...
You want a story that connects them, right?
I want it to feel like you can just continually flow. So it like
Mass
when
Effect
it comes out, sort of, but like I was actually going to bring up Mass Effect and say like it still feels disjointed. Like they have
there was a lot of time between
a
those
new
games.
like engine. I don't know if it's a new engine necessarily, but like
the battle system's completely
they
different
changed so
one.
much about it that it's not really the same thing. And in a lot of ways, that's probably good because you can improve things people didn't like. But I would love the idea of being like, I played this game, I got up to level 30 at the end or whatever. And then the sequel comes out, and I continue the story.
30. Yeah,
kind of like
where I was,
like a Dragon Warrior 1, 2, 3 kind of thing, where it's just like you went into the next game.
Yeah.
But it was the same world.
But like by the time all 3 games are out, really, it's just feels like one game.
Right.
All the systems are in place. It's still one experience. That you go from level 1 to level 99 or whatever from beginning to end, but they're just across 3. It's just such a huge thing, and they released in parts.
See, that's a good question. What are they going to do with Final Fantasy VII Episode 2? Are they going to bump you back to level 1?
That's what
What if you got, what if you, like, as we talked about the PS5 or whatever, like, how is that going to connect with your PS4 game? Or if you get Episode 2 on Xbox or PC, but you played Episode 1 on PS4, there's no way that they're going to be able to read each other's save data.
I wonder if they would almost make the first game have a level cap of like 30.
Make it so you can't go above.
You're about, and then everyone's about the next 30. Game will start about 30. Go to
That's
60.
A cheap way of doing what Mike's talking about, but it.
But I mean, you can preserve continuity without like literally having to carry over all the details of
because
you have these items or whatever.
I believe The Witcher. The base vanilla game did have a level cap somewhere around 40 or something, if I remember correctly. And it was when they released the expansions that you could then level up higher.
Skyrim did the same thing.
Because the third expansion, I think the suggested level for that boss is like 45 or something higher than what the original level cap was. And so like it's kind of what they do in MMOs as well. When they release expansions, they bump the level cap up a little bit.
Yeah, I think Skyrim only bumped the level cap once. I think that was about the time of the first expansion. But the level caps, to be completely honest, though, in the context of RPGs, it's kind of an arbitrary thing.
Yeah.
Because if you hit the level cap, you're the most powerful that the developer wanted you to be in this world. So what does it matter if you got stronger? It wouldn't like... I mean, some games have enemies scale with your level. But, in those games, you don't even have to level up, really.
Yeah, no. You just don't level up. They
just
stay
don't
low.
level. Unless they make bosses that you have to... Anyways, that's a whole nother discussion.
Anyways,
there's a lot of ways they could go with that,
I'm just interested to see how the episodic nature of this works. And like you're saying, if it's going to be 6 years from now that we're getting episode 3, will I be able to play that on the same console I have now? Or will I have to buy a new console to play that? And I freaking hope they don't do that.
Right.
Because
it
they're-
might be available on both.
Because
but-
here's the thing. I guarantee you there will be Unreal Engine 5 by the time that lasts.
Oh, that's gonna.
Unreal Engine 4 is already like 3 or 4 years
pretty
old. I
old,
think we're
yeah.
pretty close to seeing an Unreal Engine 5 as it is. This game's built on Unreal Engine 4. When that happens and they
Right.
can make things look so much more
You know they want
beautiful,
Yes,
yeah.
the
They're so
developers
visually
won't
driven.
Be able to help
I
themselves.
wonder if... I would hope they wouldn't.
Muda
I would
sure
really
couldn't
hope they
help
wouldn't,
himself.
because I would hope that the final product is something you can play straight through and feel like
It was one thing.
Uh,
That's what I'm
visual
talking
experience.
about.
But
I don't
like-
like the jump.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
disjointedness in like maybe skipping time or the levels didn't carry or whatever, but the visual continuity would be really important to me.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as like you don't go to the next one and this looks way better. Like Mass Effect, can you imagine if all the Mass Effect games looked like Mass Effect 1, even up to Mass Effect 3? I think that's the problem they run into is they become more capable of making something that looks more elaborate.
Right. They've become more efficient.
And so
working
they
in the
want to
engine.
do that.
If
but you know,
if it was being done on the same hardware, right? So say this is all PS4. I think that you could patch an earlier installment to have those upgrades visually.
Yeah, I
later,
guess-
right?
Okay,
So then you can keep
that's
the
an
visual
interesting
fidelity
idea.
the same across all three.
not if the
but
engine
just make,
changed. But
Yeah. Well, the engine being the same, right? So,
Right.
but if you change the engine, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And that to me feels almost like a console generational leap as well. If you're going to use Unreal Engine 5, you can't do that on a PlayStation 4 anyways. You'd need a PlayStation 5 or PS4 Pro or whatever.
yeah,
or
right,
the Pro.
Yeah, I guess
true.
that's who knows how far away that is.
Jeez. What
But-
about VR? VR Final Fantasy? Do you think that's gonna be announced? We're gonna is Project Octopath gonna have any
VR?
presence here?
Oh,
Just throwing
I don't
questions
know.
out there.
I would not.
I would think it's
expect
going
to
to
hear
probably
anything.
all about Final Fantasy, but
Yeah.
I expect, this is my prediction, that the first episode will be out this year.
I think so.
However short it ends up
should
being
be a
because
holiday
of it,
release.
Right. that's
I
the question.
think that they will release Final Fantasy VII Part 1 this year.
I would say September to November, somewhere in that window, is when that game would
Yeah.
have to come out.
And I believe that, additionally to that, that they will try to like sell us Final Fantasy previous Final Fantasies again in a new form.
Right. If this
Here's
is
a
all
new
about Final
form to
Fantasy,
buy.
what
Old games.
else is there? Yeah. The old games.
I wonder
all
if
the
they'll
soundtracks
have. I
again.
wonder if they'll try to do sort of like what Lord of the Rings, New Line or whoever it is that owns the rights to merchandise for the game. They do, or not that movie. What they do every year is they have like a new pack of like
Yeah.
how you can get all the Hobbit, all the Lord of the Rings.
Sometimes
in
it's more
one
expensive
thing.
than if you
Oh,
bought them
right.
individually.
The special edition. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have like a new version of that you can buy like
21
all
discs.
the time, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I wonder if they will have some sort of like premium collector's pack with every Final Fantasy in it, all in one
For like
package.
150.
That's like a pre-order bonus to Final Fantasy VII Remake. I don't know. Probably not that far.
jeez.
But I do wonder if they're going to have this 1 through 9 compilation, if they would have some sort of like additional thing for like, I don't know, $400 where you could get Final Fantasy 15 Definitive Edition with all of its DLC and Final Fantasy 10 and 10.2 HD Remake and or remaster
13 and
and
its
Final Fantasy 13
sequels.
whatever and with all of its like all of that in one package. Every Final Fantasy mainline game. Bam, one thing.
That
Well,
would be
because
insane.
yeah, people have been
But
talking about
that's
one
totally
through
doable.
9 as just essentially all on the single disc, and that's
Yeah.
doable. But it gets definitely more complicated as you try and get to the later ones that took up
Yeah.
way more storage.
Yeah, they'd
So
have to be
those are going to have to be a few other.
separate
But I
discs.
would expect there to be something that has all of them together you could
All of
order.
them together
Not
in one
11
thing.
probably.
I mean,
including
you
that.
have to
Oh,
think
11,
about all
that's
the
the big-
collectors like out there who are like OCD, and it's like, oh, I could have every Final Fantasy game in like one pack. Like, I think
Yeah.
people, there's almost an impulse buy there.
And
Yeah,
I would
that-
also expect, I think what I've read too, is that the one for at least 1 through 9 is going to contain multiple versions of some of those games. So the original
Well, that's very
looking
interesting.
game, and then whatever slightly more enhanced versions that they've
Because
done.
they've enhanced
right now
most of one,
yeah,
like 1 through 5.
it would just be
right?
super nice to have it all just
1 through
consolidated on one platform like that, anyways, and not have to go through multiple devices.
Here's the weird thing,
or-
though. Like, the remakes of 3 and 4, for instance, were on the DS, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a whole
doing the
two-screen.
two-screen thing.
That might be a little...
Yeah, see, actually, with those, I haven't heard anything about those, but I've heard about essentially like the originals versus like some of them have slightly updated visuals. I don't know. I don't know if they mean like what they were doing in 6, where they made it look all smooth and dumb, or if they're talking. But at the very least, all I personally would care about is that the original versions of all of those are on there.
Yeah,
personally. But that is a good question. Like, would they have the DS version of 4 in some form?
I mean, they have a PC version of that, so
Yeah, that's true. They are working on one screen, so that would be
and an Android version and stuff. So
that's right.
One thing I would really, really like to see from all of this would be a Final Fantasy documentary coming out this year.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
That would be sick.
That'd
Something
really cool.
where they go back, because we know that like Sakaguchi showed up for their event last year, right?
Well, Nomura wasn't there. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was his fetching idea, and he was not at that event.
No, that's right.
But they've got the connections that they could interview all these people throughout the history of it. Put a pretty cool documentary together, I think. That could be a pre-order bonus.
That
guys.
would be that would be a really
I think
nice
that would be
thing
cool.
to do. I think like
That would be cool.
like an hour and a half, 2 hour long documentary on the history of Final Fantasy. That's narrated by somebody, because I know that they have one sort of that they did a few years ago, but the narrator is just like a super deep voice.
Oh, one of
it's like a
those.
really
Right.
obnoxious. I couldn't get all the way through it because it was really cheesy narration. But if they had, like a cool actor,
Sean Bean, you mean?
Sean Bean,
like Sean Bean, narrate the history of Final Fantasy, that could be pretty cool.
My final prediction is they will sell a pack that will have every Final Fantasy commercial in it on one Blu-ray to watch all of them.
That would be just
in
so
chronological order.
What about another Final Fantasy VII Advent Children movie?
Oh, geez, no,
Right.
please.
Like another iteration of it, or
No,
like
a whole new
sequel?
movie. A whole new movie based on
freaking-
Final Fantasy
I
VII.
really hope they don't do that.
I don't know how much they made on Advent Children, but like if this is another big like homage, like Final Fantasy Advent Children came out, I think. Well, in America it came out like 10 years after Final Fantasy VII. In Japan it was like 8 years, but yeah, they did it once, and it's been about 10 years, and they're doing all this stuff again now, and I believe that was a very profitable thing for them to make the Advent Children.
They can do Final Fantasy VII the movie now that they've rebuilt all these
Yeah.
assets for the game.
That's what remake is. It's not
Maybe-
remaking it as a
oh,
game.
snap.
It's a freaking movie.
All right, here would be the most insane thing ever. If the Final Fantasy VII remake is episodic, but the first one is a game, second one's a movie.
Oh, jeez.
That's like
Third one's a
Kingsglaive,
board
and-
game.
Yeah, that's funny.
The climax
A
is
board
a
game.
board game. You got the really detailed Sephiroth,
That
Oh,
actually
do you know what would be
Get the
cool
model.
is if they announced an HD remaster of Crisis Core.
They'd probably do Dirge of Cerberus too then if they were gonna.
Yeah, if they were going to do like
And
an
just those.
HD
games.
remaster of the anthology, what is it called, the compilation
Yeah.
stuff.
yeah.
Before Crisis and everything.
Whatever that was.
Maybe they could do that.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
I think at least Crisis Core would be one people would receive.
Yeah.
Well-
And that depends on how much they're going to cover Crisis Core in the game itself.
That's true. We have no idea what exactly, but they can't do that.
They shouldn't.
because that ruins the whole twist for Cloud. Like you
Yeah.
can't cover the story of Crisis Core because like his whole dilemma in 7.
Wow.
You already know what the
But
answer
you
is.
could do it later.
after that's been revealed, and
Yeah,
then you get some
after
real
that.
thorough flashbacks.
Like late disc 2, early disc 3, then it's like, okay, now we're playing as Zack for a little while.
There's a lot
I
they
don't
can
know.
do. There's a lot of dumb things they could definitely do.
Yeah.
Stuff that would.
There's a lot of dumb things. Let's hope that they don't do all the dumb things and just do
'Cause that's-
as minimal.
That's the
amount
problem.
as
Most of
possible.
the stuff that they've built around Final Fantasy VII has been like degrading the original product. At least in my personal opinion, most of
Okay.
it has. Most of it's kind of weakened it a little bit. And so do they continue that?
I kind of agree with that. Like when you examine the ending of the original Final Fantasy VII, I know there are a lot of people who don't like it. I personally do because I think that it emphasizes that the important thing here was the planet. Like,
Right.
that's kind of like
And
at the
from the
crux of
beginning,
everything.
that's what Avalanche was trying to do. That was the whole
and they
point.
even if they, whether they survived or not at the end, since we at least know Red 13 did, but like that's not what matters. What matters is that the planet was saved, and then with some of the compilation material, I think specifically Dirge of Cerberus and Advent Children, I think that it sort of takes away from that the meaning of that ending.
Yeah, because it's so funny.
It's all
it's
about
like
them
the
now.
planet
It's
was
not-
saved, and then it kind of was jacked.
It's like-
but you know what? It was still saved in the end. So
It's like we defeated Genova, but not really. Genova and Sephiroth, you kill Sephiroth and it's like the whole pinnacle
But
of
not
that moment,
really,
but it's like,
yeah.
nope, he came back. I don't like that.
Well,
I
that's
don't like,
Kingdom Hearts. That's
Yeah.
Nomura.
That's exactly what we were
Nomura does. He
talking
brings
about.
people back to life who
Instead
should
of-
be dead.
Instead of creating a new problem, a new scenario, a unique scenario, we have to do callbacks to all the
Yeah.
things the fans loved in the original. And it's like,
I Cloud say, I got a bad feeling about this.
I appreciate it more when you end that and you say that's what it was. It was great and people loved it, but like respect it by leaving it alone,
Right.
and not trying to play on like fan nostalgia by like we got to bring back the main villain again. We've got to make the
Well,
main character
it's
go through
the-
the same arc again.
Yeah.
it's
We've
the
got to-
direct-to-home Disney DVD
Oh,
release
the
scheme, and
Lion King 2.
and I think those weakened
Yeah.
those original movies as well.
See,
Yeah,
there's
it
another
was the
Disney
Aladdin
Kingdom Hearts
stuff that they
connection
did
to
afterwards.
Nomura.
Yeah, they made a Pocahontas 2, and it was like,
Yep.
Now, there are some people who might be pointing at us talking about this and going like, wait a second, you got all over people's cases who say the newest Fire Emblem ruined the series, or that you can always go back and enjoy the original for what it is, and maybe that's a fair
you
point.
It's
can.
true.
I guess
That's a
we're
good
just
point. It's
talking
true.
about like
But-
things that Square Enix might do theoretically moving forward to honor Final Fantasy VII, and it is weird to look back and be like, well, a lot of what surrounds Final Fantasy VII is kind of stuff I would wish that they didn't keep up personally, and so we'll see if they do or they do not.
This is the kind of thing where I don't know about you guys. I feel like we all kind of agree on this, but it is not likely that Final Fantasy VII Remake will be as good of a game as Final Fantasy VII. Would you guys agree with that?
I that's
want
so
to
hard
say-
because
Yes, but
I
I just hope that
I don't think it's possible that the remake can be better. Like I don't see that as a realistic
can
possibility.
it be better for people who have the context of playing the original game when it came out? I think that it's not impossible. I think that depends on who you are, but I think it's very unlikely that you will have the same sort of like high emotional response to something that you've already done before.
I don't
really
think
think that
feel
that's
like
hard.
their tone is going to match no matter what they do. Personally, I just don't think they can because of the 100% realism that they're going through here with the remake.
Right, I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot.
I feel like that changes a lot of the tone.
It's going to be
and
problematic.
so for what they're trying to make it, I think it can still be a phenomenal game.
Sure.
I think
Yeah,
to strike the same chord is going to be a little tough.
for
Right.
people who have not played the original and this is their very first time playing it, and to compare that if they were to go back and play the original, say they're more of a action RPG fan than a
Yeah.
traditional turn-based RPG
Yeah.
fan. I think for that kind of person, it definitely could be a better game.
Then they
But-
should just make a Final Fantasy VII in all the genres and all of those
Yeah,
people,
puzzle
first-person
Final
shooter
Fantasy
Final Fantasy VII, and then those people, it'll be their favorite Final Fantasy VII.
But I do think that there is some definite like credence in what you're saying, that if you played the original and loved it, like you are one of those people who were a part of the masses that just like fell in love with Final Fantasy VII when it was released. I have a hard time thinking, unless you like stepped away from gaming for most of your adult life afterward
and came back.
and then came back and would be able to be like, oh man,
To have
wow,
that
I remember
experience.
this. Like maybe you could have that kind of nostalgic sort of experience,
Right.
and it can deliver some of the same feelings. But if you're a person who's been involved heavily in gaming since then, you've seen how the series has evolved, you've played other games that do that kind of game really well, like other turn-based RPGs, maybe something like the Trails games. You've seen how that sort of subgenre of RPG has evolved and become better, and you're looking for a return to something you loved before to be improved upon, and this is a wildly different thing. Yeah, I think that
It's
a
just
lot of
two
people
apples to oranges.
are going to
in
be
some
pretty
ways.
disappointed by that.
I
So-
feel like
Yeah, even just speaking in general,
yeah.
like it's hard to find a top 10 video games of all time list without Final Fantasy VII on it.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of this game
of 7 remake being a top 10 for
being
like regarded as
considered,
that.
well, just being as good in any way as the original game.
So I think
expectations should not be there. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
don't expect this game to live up to the original game, and all of a sudden now everyone's top 10 list has the Final Fantasy VII remake on it instead of the original. I don't like that. I don't know. Just keep your expectations tempered.
I was going to say, like, thinking about it, like, I've always wanted a Final Fantasy VII remake, right?
Yeah.
I've always thought that would be so cool.
Yeah, basically from the year the game came out, I was like, oh, remake this game.
But the thing is, I have to stop and think, why? Why is that something I wanted? Mm-hmm. What was I not getting out of the original that I still wanted? And for me, all I can think of at the moment is just the visuals. It's just the graphics.
You just want it to be reaffirmed that it looks real, the way you thought it would.
But here's the thing. Right? I feel like this is kind of akin to books that people fall in love with that get film or television or Netflix series adaptations and stuff
from the start.
The thing is I feel like we're at a point now where they're just very different things from each other, and they have to be judged on their own merits, really. And that's going to be hard for people to divest like their personal opinion of the story of Final Fantasy VII or certain story beats that maybe will be included or not included in this version. That's definitely going to paint people's impressions of the game. Like you were saying, Mike, if they've already played it, it's going to be a whole... You will not be able to remove your bias if you've already played the first Final Fantasy VII.
But most people who have played that first one have wanted a remake. So the bias for the original is there, but at the same time, the desire for this new one to live up to the old one is also there. The hope, I guess.
I think, at least from what I've seen from people, is probably right on the nail with what you said, Landon. They just wanted a visual update. But they wanted the
Square
game
doesn't do that.
to be the same.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that is... I mean, maybe we can say on some level of consensus, not that we have data for it, but that people... The one thing that they felt like they didn't get, or maybe even just a year or two after, let's say Final Fantasy VIII came out, I was like, whoa, this is way better. Final Fantasy IX came out, whoa. And then in the PS2, it's like, whoa, the jump between PS1 to PS2 was so enormous. It was like, holy crap, what if my favorite Final Fantasy had looked like that? Then it would be even better, right? Yeah. I think that was purely the motivation for a majority of people calling for a remake, not that they wanted the whole game to be changed.
And what it feels like we're getting is something akin to Steven Spielberg directing and reshooting Star Wars Episode 4. You know what I mean? It's like, the basic stuff will all be there, but you're going to get kind of another version of it. And it can still totally be good and great and whatever. I would love to see something like that. I would be super interested in
let every director go version and remake episode 4.
I think it's a great comparison because what the special editions were kind of pitched to be is like a visual update. It's going to be like cleaner footage,
just polished
up of the original movie with like clearer sound and everything like that. I think they were moving over to Dolby instead of THX. Maybe I'm wrong on that. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But they were updating that kind of stuff, and it was like, oh, we're going to get a clearer version of what the 1977 version was. But then they changed stuff, and that pissed people off so bad. So bad.
Yeah.
Like, do not change it. Just let me relive the thing with like a higher level of quality overall, in like technical quality in terms of like image clarity. And
like the granular nature of what they changed in the special editions, like obviously didn't affect, for the most part, did not really change the plot.
Change much,
right.
But
this will.
This would.
This will.
These are bigger changes.
At least
than
I
that.
expect it will. If they're going to add that much more to the game to make it three,
well, you have to flesh it out.
3 different 60-hour games.
Unless you're just grinding for, all the...
for a disc 2 is the grinding disc.
This will potentially upset people even more because it's going to go even further in changing the original experience.
After this game comes out, I believe we will have what you could possibly consider the definitive version of Cloud. Which could bother some people because there's a few versions of Cloud. And
this
to
will
date,
be-
it's been like, this is the cloud I like, right?
Right.
But
It's been cloudy. Which version
oh, it's cloudy.
is the Anyways.
Yeah. So
I don't know, man.
Man.
It's tough to say, but let's hope that they will at least clarify in this event, how the game will play, how much content we can expect to have, and when we will be getting it.
yeah,
The first
I
episode.
if there's not a release date, then
All bets are off. If there's not a release date,
I mean, to be
then
fair, we didn't have a release date
they're
for
in trouble.
15 last year until what, March?
way later.
Yeah.
And then it
So
even still
I mean, it's
was
not
pushed
totally
back.
nuts. But if there's not, if they
Yeah.
don't announce it here, what the
When do they? Yeah.
do they announce it at E3 or does Nomura just announce it offhand at that mag
Gotta
thing
have a
in like 2
Final
weeks
Fantasy
later?
VII
Oh,
remake event.
the anime
Well, you know what?
festival.
Okay, does Square Enix think that Final Fantasy 15 event was a success?
Who
And if
knows?
they do think it was a success,
probably
Then
would
how
they
much
do
will
that
this
for this
resemble
game?
that? Yeah.
They probably did think it was. I think that the problem for that game it was just a lack of knowledge throughout its entire development, all the way up to that point. Like, no one had any idea, really,
That's true, yeah.
that's true.
was
when
very
it was
cloudy.
coming or, like, what it was going to be exactly. It was just very vague information. So they called it an unveiling event. It's like, we're finally going to actually describe to you what this game is. And, like, set it in stone here. And, depending on what they reveal on the 30th, I don't know if they would have a need to do that,
Yeah, I
again.
mean, you'd think that if they were going to do that, this would be the day.
Yeah.
It has all the
This-
significance.
This feels to me, the date of it, I think, signifies that it is almost in its own way a Final Fantasy VII Remake uncovered event.
yeah.
So,
I would
Okay, so
expect
you can have
that.
some hosts and some tight
Gotta get
guys up
some-
there.
Get your celebrities. Is Hironobu Sakaguchi going to be there?
he'll be there to
Good
give
question.
his blessing.
Yes.
Who's
This is what-
voicing Cloud, by the way? Is
It's
it
going to be the
still,
same guy.
Same guy.
Steve Burton, I think his name
Okay.
is.
Will they allow... Apparently Breath of the Wild will not allow you to play Japanese audio with English text.
Oh, it won't.
Will
yeah.
this game allow you to do that? I hope.
You can do that. Yeah, you can do that in 15.
Because
I would-
15 and World of Final Fantasy
I think that they
Yeah.
will.
let you do
Yeah.
that.
I think that they will. I think that once you've
They're a
done
step
that,
ahead of Nintendo.
once you've done that a number of times on games,
So
you can't be
you
like,
can
never
Expect
mind.
it, yeah.
You
Like,
can-
I think that they know their fans. There's a subset of their fans that really want that. So,
So you can get
Wish
rid of
Nintendo
the
did the same.
You're trying to save the planet.
I freaking hope that's not the guy's real voice.
I do too. I hope that was
freaking
some
hope
office.
it's not.
That's the only thing I've seen where I'm like, this could go horribly wrong.
This whole
Everything
thing
else, I'm like, this is
might
pretty
crash
cool.
and burn. Oh jeez. Yeah, that was the first hint. What about a Final Fantasy 15 DLC? Is that
Oh, they'll definitely have
yeah,
some
they
news on
should
that.
have
I'm
talked about
expecting that they'll probably
least
lay
when
out
it's coming.
when
Yeah.
each episode of like the character specific DLC will come out. And
it should
maybe
be all
even
this year, right?
maybe even the patch they've talked about with like adding some cutscenes and things
Yeah.
for the main story.
Yeah.
I expect
So-
the DLC should extend maybe up to the holiday season, at least, right? You think they'd have it spaced out like that? Maybe we get
Yeah,
the final...
all the way through the year.
The
Yeah.
final, like, whoever's going to be last, Prompto or
Should be
Gladys or
what's her
whatever.
name though, right? The girl. Is there going to be?
Oh yeah, the online,
Luna?
the whole online
Luna
thing.
Freya
Oh, is she going to have a
DLC.
thing?
Is she going to have her own little? I thought she was.
I thought that they did say that. I remember that now.
Or was that for
Because there's
Aranea?
5.
Yeah, there was. I can't remember, but there are 5 character DLCs, and there is an online co-op feature they're going to put in there.
Which...
And at least that's
Yeah.
what they've said in the past.
If it's
That
not
would
in
be
there by
interesting.
now, I just
And-
don't see how many people are going to be... I don't know what that would entail.
Well, and
Maybe
they're
there's
also
some
apparently
cool
making a
about it.
phone game.
Well, I
Oh,
think
The
the
makers
MMO.
of Mobile Strike, which
that's
is gonna
true. That
be
like MMO thing.
social MMO. Yeah.
There's a whole lot more Final Fantasy 15 content. I'm sure that a
Yeah.
lot of this event will be dedicated towards describing when that's coming, and what it's going to be, and all that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, a lot to look forward to. I don't know how long the event is. Hopefully, it's longer than an hour,
Yeah.
like Nintendo did for their Switch presentation.
That'd be funny if they
I know that
waited through
ended
the
a little
whole
soon
thing
for me,
and they
I was-
didn't mention Final Fantasy VII Remake once.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Hironobu Sakaguchi, do you know where it is? And he's like,
He's like,
"I-
what? I'm
in
just
New
here
York."
in New York. What the fetch?
Tetsuya Nomura, do you know? He's like, oh, I'm not the executive.
Let's kick it back to you, bland weirdo in a suit who has no personality.
Exactly. Anyways,
I did think
that's how it's going to go.
Kimishima did a pretty good job.
He's
He
wonderful.
did better than I thought
like
he
him.
would. I still can't believe he's a person.
He's like a total caricature, but
He's a caricature of Japanese
businessman.
businessman.
geez.
Yeah.
It's like they could have used Kimishima's character model in freaking that game.
In the Yakuza.
Yakuza?
No, in Tokyo Jungle as like
Oh, the
as like the
businessman.
men that are
Yeah. They totally could. That would have been great.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's our Final Fantasy ramblings. Up next, Zelda. Apparently, Breath of the
Yeah.
Wild has multiple endings, and multiple just two endings.
at least two.
At least two. So.
At
Two
least
endings, yeah. And
So-
apparently, to get the second ending, there's very specific things you have to do.
And here's
in a certain order, and
here's
then you can have that.
where this becomes interesting. Is this a timeline divergence again?
Yeah, I thought that was my thought too. I was like,
Is
are they
this
explaining
another way of diverging timelines into
Because-
like different series almost?
Yeah, because how
Again.
different could the
I don't
ending
know.
be, right? Like, if they're saying different endings, then it's not just, oh, the people you helped are partying here, and then you help these people and they're partying in this
Yeah.
ending, like Ocarina of Time style.
Right.
You'd think it would be substantial. Like
Or Harvest
and then-
Moon, how many people you get come to your ranch at the end of the third year?
Oh, that yeah,
And-
right.
Yeah, that's multiple endings there, depending on how you look at it.
Because
So hold on. I had a thought. Maybe this is crazy. So the three divergent timelines from Ocarina of Time, right?
Yeah.
You have one where he returns to being a child,
and
that goes into
Majora's
Majora's Mask,
Mask,
and
so-
that leads on into Twilight Princess, correct?
oh,
gosh.
jeez, I always have to look at it because it's not super.
I
Intuitive,
believe it does. And then the one where he remains an adult
but
leads
fails.
but fails leads into the original Zelda,
Link to the
Zelda
Past.
2,
Oh,
Yeah.
that one.
and the Link to the Past.
Yeah.
the old games.
Yeah.
And then the third was he remains an adult and is successful, and that leads into Wind Waker and
Spirit Tracks.
and Spirit
Yes.
Tracks and that timeline.
Where he
What-
didn't return as a child yet.
What if this Link in this game is adult Link from Ocarina of Time who went to sleep for 100 years, and this leads us straight into Wind Waker in some way? We've already talked
I
about the
would like
possibility
that.
that this game could be leading straight into Wind Waker.
The only reason I would think that wouldn't be the case is we've seen the Guardians destroying a town that looks to be the Hyrule Castle town. It might not be. That might be the explanation, but we see them go through and shoot lasers and burn everything up and destroy it before
Right.
it's destroyed.
And that's how
So,
Hyrule got destroyed.
It's like that's how that area got destroyed, which is not. I don't know how that would tie into Ocarina of Time if that was what they were doing. I don't know.
What
I don't know
about
how you
those
bridge
pineapple
that
things in the
specifically.
field? Those things evolved.
They sprouted legs and started running.
I
around.
mean, they
Yeah.
did anyways from Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker in that timeline. But
Right.
how long did that take to do that?
Yeah.
who knows?
that
It's
does
been
seem to be
100
the most
years.
likely place.
True,
'Cause
true, it
Of
has
all
been a while.
the Wind Waker hints and things, the
Koroks.
the races seem very Wind Waker esque. The Koroks, there's a
Yeah.
great Deku tree. I'm trying to think that. I mean, we've seen a big old ocean right there too.
I feel like this game very possibly could be a bridge title between Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time. And if that's the case, and there's this 100-year gap that he's been asleep, I mean, like that's connect. If this does, okay, I have to emphasize, if this is a bridge game between Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, this is coming in between the two, right? Then
Then there could be
what
another timeline
timeline
split.
is there? Is there a fourth time that comes after? You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
this Link is not the Link in this game. Ocarina of Time Link. This is a new guy, faced a new threat, went to sleep for 100 years. You see how that's like one node that connects to this one that will be referenced as the past,
Right.
connects to this node which is the game, connects to this node which is Wind Waker.
But what if the
I
Link
feel
from 100
like-
years ago succeeded? Now even from that we have another timeline.
Well, that's what I mean is the fail of that
oh,
timeline.
if that link. So you're saying if that link is the Ocarina of Time link?
He succeeded in Ocarina of Time. The adult Link succeeded. We're following him. He didn't go back in time and become a kid again.
Then he has a
Then
descendant.
if it's a descendant or if it's himself, like continuing to succeed in the future by killing this current Calamity Ganon form, or whatever, which leads us into Wind Waker somehow, because isn't that right? Like, the successful Ocarina of Time adult Link goes into Wind Waker. The failure one goes into the old games. The child one goes into Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess.
Yeah, I think
so
that's
the
correct.
successful Link of Ocarina of Time still leads to some sort of disaster where the world is flooded.
Well, my impression was always that he just led a normal life, died. Another hero was supposed to have shown up.
And he
I
never
don't know.
did.
And he never
Right.
did.
That is the way the story is told, yeah.
But
At the beginning
what's
of Wind
weird
Waker.
is there's so much Link to the Past imagery in this game. There's a lot of
Right.
it.
The
The
flowers,
placement of the
the
Master
Master
Sword
Sword,
in the
the
woods,
forest.
it looks
Yeah.
like the pedestal in Link to the Past. Where the flowers are is arranged the same as in Link to the Past.
hold on, because
Right.
And that's Link failing. So I don't know. What are the odds that they don't freaking tell us?
The lore at the beginning of Wind
Very
Waker
high.
says that they looked to the hero of time to come
he never
back
came,
and save them,
yeah.
and he
Never
never
came back.
What if the reason he never came
Right.
back isn't because he just left, but because he fetching was asleep
And I
in
can
some
see
sort
that.
of resurrection chamber?
I can see that. The scenario that I feel is most likely is that is him, but that Link in Breath of the Wild is not Ocarina of Time Link. That it's somebody some significant amount of time later.
He's a clone, dude.
It could be a clone. I don't know. I
Here's
think
the question, though.
But again,
Well,
even if we come back to the original question,
Why
if,
would-
if the ending of this current game is if it could be another branching timeline, that means that you're creating a timeline off
four.
of
See,
one of the three.
and the branching timeline thing. Okay, Hyrule Historia came out when Skyward Sword came out, so we
Right.
haven't had a major Zelda game come out that has had to change that at all.
the whole thing, yeah.
So
but apparently there is room within Hyrule Historia for Nintendo to change things. Because even though they didn't confirm it, Hyrule Historia was not necessarily written like by Nintendo in that
it's dark.
sense.
It's Dark Horse.
It says at
isn't
the beginning, it says like these are the events as legend has passed them down. That means it's
They're-
not necessarily the true
They're not writing
order.
themselves into a corner.
Exactly. Nintendo could come in and say, "Oh, that's what they used to think. They were wrong. There's only two timelines." Or so, like they could totally. They've left
It's just
themselves
so
room
weird.
to say, "Oh, the legends were wrong for once."
Because it's so obvious there's a Temple of Time that was destroyed
Yes.
that very much resembles Ocarina of Time's Temple
And
of
then
Time.
Castletown looks just like Twilight Princess, like almost to a T.
With the fountain in the middle with the crest.
fountain, the flags, the
Looks like
buildings
Twilight
around
Princess.
Its proximity to the
The Master Sword stuff, I even feel like Zelda
Twilight
wearing
Princess.
a white, her get up is like the maidens in Link to the Past
Yeah.
a little bit, but there's
There's
that,
stuff
and then
from
there's the
every
Koroks, and then
game.
there's the other Wind Wakery stuff. It's like, what the fetch?
it feels
Every
like a
freaking game,
combination, of like a whole bunch of different
But
ones.
you're right. I do think that is the most plausible place if it takes place before something that we currently know about. Is that supposedly something went down, the hero never showed up, stuff got jacked,
and this could totally fit there.
yeah.
What about Spirit Tracks? This could be the same Link from Spirit Tracks. And Zelda, because remember, Zelda
believe
gets
it.
jacked in Spirit Tracks, and so, she has her own
So you would
resurrection
put that
deal.
after Wind Waker.
Yeah, way after. Who knows?
man.
In any case, it is interesting, even if only because this is the first time something like this will be done for a Zelda game where you have multiple endings. I believe, right? So
yeah. Otherwise, it's just been split games like Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, just their own things.
they've all been more or less. I mean, unless you're talking about the very original Zelda or something, pretty linear in design, but open in like field map design. So they have large worlds, and in some cases you can make a choice. Like I'll do the Spirit Dungeon before the Shadow Dungeon, or vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
But for the most part, you got to play them in a pretty particular order, and this one is not that way. Kind of like the original Zelda was, which you can do it in any order you want.
Right.
And will that have story implications? I mean, because that makes it hard to write a story if you're going to give that much freedom. So
Yeah, it's interesting because they have said that it's possible to beeline it and beat the game like very quickly.
He reiterated again recently, like, yes, you can go to the last boss right away. If
you could
want.
just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
Numa said that like just a few days ago.
that's very
what I'm going to do,
interesting.
dude. I'm going to beat the game. I'm going to get so good at fighting in that game.
You're like,
by,
this game was only
whittling at
3
its
hours
three
long.
hearts for like 4 hours, just fighting the final
Deking
boss.
every move.
Yeah.
Using a Boko like just a club. You're
so-
a branch.
Review the game, be like, this game has this game just has a final boss. That's it. Like,
That's it.
do like a Philo Films review.
I've also read somewhere they've said that the number of quests, as they call them, which is separate from the shrines, separate from the Korok type stuff, is supposedly in the 70s. And so I wonder if this ending has connected to that in some way. Did you complete the core chunk of quests, or did you complete all the shrines and something might activate when you've completed all the shrines? And that's the way
in
to
that
get
case,
the alternate ending.
Would the alternate ending be what it is, an alternate ending, or will it be like the true ending? Like if they're going to build upon this game later, which ending do they go with, kind of thing? Does it split the timeline, or is it no? The real ending is the alternate ending.
Because that's the thing with every Zelda game, you can have a timeline split if you just have the pass fail.
Yeah, Dark World,
like Wind Waker. Did he win or no?
Did he die? What if
did he die in the first dungeon? Yes. Okay. Did the freaking Deku Scrub fetch him up? Yes, he did. Okay, this timeline down this way. Or the Deku rule the world.
Yeah, it's funny that Link failing can be its own timeline, because Link could potentially fail in every game, and you've got a new timeline each time.
Yep. That just comes down to multiverse theory, right? Like, which is what Bioshock Infinite was all about.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's fascinating, though. That appears to be kind of a first for the series, like you were saying. So that's interesting to know they're doing different things. I don't know even think.
I like it, actually. I like that you can potentially have
like for the.
I think it adds a reason to do a second playthrough. I mean, I wonder if they'll do a hero mode thing like they usually do, kind of like they did in the original Zelda too. And a lot of this game, the way they're kind of presenting it, points it back to being like a return to the original game, sort of like
that repetition
design philosophy. And that game had, I don't know if they called it hero mode, but a new game mode.
Oh, what do they call it?
They changed a bunch of stuff. Like, the tunic was different, and
and the dungeons,
the enemies
were
and dungeon layouts and things like that were kind of changed up, and so you like played it through again.
The minus world,
but things were different. And I wonder if like the alternate ending is an incentive to like play the game again and try to do more this time.
Yeah, and then, Zelda games always have
do things in a different order.
Always have a dual world mechanic. Like, they basically always do. And maybe, because they're changing so many other things with the game, maybe they're getting away from that as well. But I feel like there's, like, in some form, there is a second world that we have yet to see for Breath of the Wild. There's a dark world.
It could be the past.
Maybe it's just the past.
Years earlier,
it might really just
things
be the
are
past
better,
and
that's the light world. The future is the dark world,
But I feel like there's a duality there that maybe that will come into play. Did you fight him in this one? Did you fight him in this one? I don't know. Maybe...
that could be interesting.
That is where the two endings come in.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
You fight the easy version from 100 years ago, or the hard version from the future.
He's been training for the past 2 years.
Either way, I'm super intrigued. I'm really intrigued. Because I had to find out what happened to Link.
Got fetching a month and a week or whatever.
Yeah, it's not that far.
Yeah, dude, very soon.
Not till the soft launch of the Switch, right? Soft launch. Anyways.
All right, Cynthia Chow wants to know what we think of the vocal themes in Final Fantasy games and their evolution. The first one that they ever did was Eyes on Me in Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
And then in Final Fantasy IX they
Melodies
had
of Life,
Melodies of Life.
Which was...
that's
well.
my favorite one.
Yeah. And especially when like Zidane wakes up and he hears her singing it, and he kind of, they have that moment up in the city. I don't know. I think that's really well done.
Final Fantasy X has Suteki Dane.
Suteki Dane. Yeah. They wrote it backwards, I think.
11, I don't think had one. 12, I don't think had one either. And then
Not that
13 has. I'm always confused.
Oh,
because they had a Japanese singer do one for their game, and that one's actually awesome. And then they had what's her fetching name? Do
Avril Lavigne?
No.
You know what's funny? I was gonna say Avril Lavigne.
Were you?
I want to say like Rihanna or something.
Oh, like that.
But that might have been Final Fantasy 13 too. I can't remember. But the Japanese song that's in Japanese, maybe it's because I don't speak Japanese, but I like that version. I don't like the English version. And then obviously Final Fantasy 15 had Stand By Me.
Yeah.
Which is a standout because really that's
an old song. Yeah.
The Promise.
Yeah, is this the one?
This might be the Japanese song.
there a way to hear it?
Fear not.
I could play it real quick. Oh, Japanese? No. Japanese version. Overseas version.
Do they have a thing to play there to listen to it? Oh, yeah. This is not the one I'm thinking
I don't know who this is.
Sounds like a Disney song, dude.
I like the instrumental version of this song better, that's for sure.
What about Final Fantasy X, like that heavy metal song that plays towards the beginning? Go if you wanted to bite the hand that freed you.
The Blitzball song? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's good.
So my general feeling is it's really hard. Okay, I want to be careful when I say this because I don't want to speak like definitively. For me personally, I generally don't like vocal tracks being used in the game, like while you're playing it.
Right.
I think as an ending
agree with
credits
that.
piece or something along those lines, that a theme like that works pretty well.
Mm.
But like a vocal track while you are in the middle of, and I don't actually think that they've done that. I'm trying to
While
think
you're in the middle of like fighting or something?
like while you're in the middle of a scene,
Like
and
Stand By
having
Me.
a vocal track.
Don't they start singing
Stand
that
By
at the
Me
beginning?
does
Usually
at the
while you're
beginning of
pushing.
15. Final Fantasy 13, I think it does at the very end of the game, like the ending is playing that song. It's not that one. It's another
Some other one.
Japanese. It's been so long that I can't remember for sure, but I think that they're playing a vocal track during the very ending cutscene of the game. And then in Final Fantasy X, Suteki Danai plays while they have their love scene. Believe. And then in Final Fantasy VIII, I don't think that the vocal track is used. I think the instrumental track is used.
Yeah, that's
in
how
the game.
9 is.
And 9 is the instrumental track,
Yeah.
and it's like a
And
cut
then you
or a
read
final credits.
the text. Well, okay,
Yeah.
that one. But like during the game, there's the scene. What I really like is that they use Melodies of Life in kind of. I think Final Fantasy VI technically has one of these too, but it's just instrumental. But it's like kind of sounds like someone's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're reading the words as you're hearing the melody, and that works better because you don't. It's always like a studio recording, and it always
I was
sounds
gonna say,
weird.
So what I have a hard time with is sometimes it does feel too modern. Not like modern, but like our time period. I guess it feels like it reminds me of our time period more. So like the Lord of the Rings films, I'm okay with their credits sequence having someone singing.
Yeah.
Right.
But if
if they had Gollum's song in the middle and they had,
I know that would change
But
things.
I think what we're diving into here is the difference
Yeah.
between non-diegetic and diegetic music, which is where the
Right.
music is not actually happening there.
Right.
Or
Right.
it's just meant to supplement the atmosphere,
Yeah.
or when it is actually happening, like the way they use the dwarves song in The Hobbit,
or like
is,
Pippin.
that's
is a diegetic
fine.
piece of music,
Awesome, yeah.
and they are
That's-
singing it. Or Pippin is singing the song
Yeah.
in that
No problems
moment.
there.
And I
That's
think that
fine because it's coming from their world. That's the thing.
Exactly.
They can only
Right. It's
produce
their
it.
song.
They can only produce that using objects and voices that already exist. You already heard that person talking in other scenes. You're used to their
Right.
voice. Somebody else coming in over the top,
having
It
a
sounds
just not something
non-diegetic,
that I like
a
at all.
non-diegetic vocal track,
Or
over
even
the
like
top of
a-
a scene is
yeah.
tough for me.
just because
Unless in Fellowship of the Ring, you have Enya coming across as they leave the mountain, the Misty Mountains, as they leave. Sorry,
but there's
what's
no
it called?
words to it
Khazad-dûm?
really. Right?
No, it's just ooze and
it's just
ahs.
ooze and ahs, which
And
I'm okay with that too.
Is perfect.
I'm fine with that.
That's
But
not problematic. It's when they start singing words.
And it's a non-diegetic use in the middle of a scene.
It takes me out, man.
Yeah, so
It's like Rocky. It's like Eye of the Tiger. It's like all of a sudden it's some montage song that just I don't know.
So I guess to answer the question, if we're just talking about the songs themselves, just like the quality of the songs, it's like some of them I like and some of them I
Totally
don't.
cool.
I think Eyes on Me is a great piece of music. I think the lyrics are terribly translated and they sound really weird. So I don't like the vocal version for that reason. I don't think that she's a bad singer. I don't think that the melody is bad. I like the melody a lot. I just don't like those lyrics. With Eyes on Me, the version with the official version with the what's her name they got to sing it, I don't like her voice. So I like the instrumental version of that song better as well, just because of that. But anyways, if we're just talking about quality, there's some of them I really like, and some of them that I don't like as much, and I prefer the instrumental versions. But that's just a matter of like personal taste.
Right.
And then I would say, as far as use within the games, if it's a non-diegetic, I'm hoping I'm remembering that term correctly. Is diegetic?
Yes.
Diegetic
Yes.
means it coming from the world. Non-diegetic means it's music that's not coming from inside.
I believe
right?
that's correct.
So if it's a non-diegetic vocal track, I generally don't like that. If it's a diegetic vocal track, then I think it's good.
See, and the exception for me is usually if something is modern, like your example case of Rocky, I'm okay with it.
Right, because it's a modern setting.
I don't know why,
And
and I
it
think I
almost
more
always
open
works
to it
in
mostly
montages.
montages.
Exactly, but I don't want that feeling that I get in Rocky in my non-modern pieces. But which is inevitably what happens.
Hold on.
Like even the electric guitar in Final Fantasy VII, it's cool. It
feels
awesome.
a little.
But when you've got like some dude wailing with pinch harmonics, and it's a sweet song, I freaking love it. But during the
Calling
fight
too
with
much attention
Sephiroth,
to
all of a
itself.
sudden it's like, oh wow, that music's cool. It stands out way too much,
Yeah.
and you want the music to sit behind the action to supplement and complement what
Yeah.
you're seeing. When it stands out too much, because the guitarist is literally soloing for
When
like a minute straight,
becomes a
it becomes problematic. And I guess there are voices in that song, but it's Latin and it's just chants
And it's
from
choir stuff. I feel
So
like
that's not a
feels more
problem.
instrumental.
In that one, it's more just the music stands out too much. And a sure way to make the music stand out a lot is to have words that some pop artist is singing.
I'm thinking in Red Dead Redemption, when you have that moment where you finally cross over into Mexico, across the border, you can cross the river and you're riding your horse up and over that ridge, and that guitar kicks in. And doesn't the guy sing in that song?
I don't remember.
I think there is some
He
vocals in
sings
that
like a
in that
Johnny
song.
Cash
I think he
type.
does.
Yeah, I think there
and I
is.
freaking dug that. That was awesome. That was
Interesting.
really because it came out of nowhere. It was like, whoa, what is this? But they had a moment there.
Yeah.
And they moved on. If that guy had just started singing as I was running around town trying to talk to people, any kind of actual interaction, he was alone there. And
Yeah.
I feel like that worked better.
I think there are
Interesting.
exceptions to,
Interesting.
in moments where you will find it appropriate to use non-diegetic vocal music for sure. But I just think that, like, as a general rule, maybe, like, it's a bit distracting, but that's not to say that it can't ever be effective, right?
Right. There are always appropriate ways to break the rules, so to speak. But
So-
yeah, I agree. I don't typically. I would rather my soundtrack keep words out so that I can focus on what I'm watching and the game as opposed to listening to the words being spoken in the song.
Especially when the words are written in Japanese and then they're translating them in
And they're
English and they
not right.
always sound fetched.
Yeah.
Like, they always
I'm sure
sound
that-
fetched. So,
Well, the funny thing is, Japanese lyrics tend to. Every language does this, but they always
Yeah.
tend to use. There's a very small set of words that they use
Yeah.
like over and over, and so it just sometimes it feels these cliches kind of come up a little, and it's just hard to do.
In Korean, one of those is chosarang, which means first love. Every song has chosarang in it. It's so funny.
but
Like Oscar sings one of those.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
Secret
I
Garden.
was gonna say that's.
I will say that in general, for vocal themes in Final Fantasy, I like the Japanese versions. So Suteki Dane is only in Japanese, I believe, and I like that a lot. And
That's fun because you can't focus on the words when you don't
again,
know
that's a good point.
what
Yeah.
they're saying.
I don't know what
You
they're
don't
saying.
know.
It's almost just
Yeah.
like another instrument,
Yeah, exactly.
And then when I hear "Eyes on Me" in English, and what's that one line she says? If you bring up the lyrics or something, like there's this one line that's just like, "What the fetch did you just say?" It's just like a really grammatically weird
Yeah.
sentence.
Wow, there's a lot of words.
It's like
I know that once in love you don't think of the devil who's inside, and maybe it'll come one day when you'll feel safe and I won't have the time. It just does not flow. Super
yeah, and there's
well.
not like a lot of rhyming in it either, which you would expect from
You
a song
hear
like
what you
this.
want to hear. Play it once I could disappear. Some rules to the game of me. Get it right for both of us. Just say what you want to say. I've got it to give away. We both want to make it last. So keep your eyes on me. Your eyes on me. It's not an illusion that you're the one, and I have fallen deep. I said it from the start. When you're apart, you must only think of me. Temptations all around. Take good care of what you found. That's why when I turn around, you better keep your eyes on me, no matter what you think I need, no matter what. Wow, this is really long.
This isn't actually. This not this whole thing is actually in the song. It's the one where. It's like on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it.
Oh, this is the bottom. I don't know, dude.
Shoot, hold on. It's so weird.
I don't know. Tell them how you feel. Let them know it's real. If you love me, never turn your back.
It's so weird. I can't believe I can't think of it. It's like the weirdest line.
Well, just that first couple lines.
It's not.
I know, they're pretty bad.
We really can't go on no matter what you think of me. You better keep your eyes on me.
Oh my gosh, this
Baby, don't put on a show.
Literally drive me insane if I cannot think of this line.
You say that you need me, tell them how you feel, let them know it's real, and if you love me, never turn your back, and keep my eyes on him.
Gosh, this is so dumb. I can't believe I can't think of it.
Wait, hold on. What the crap?
Is that the right one? Is that the right song?
This is crediting Celine Dion, so
That's not the right song. That's why.
There's another song. I say, what? Ooh. Which Celine Dion? I didn't like your lyrics either.
Oh man, that's unfortunate.
Whenever saying my songs, huh? That's got to be wrong.
Yeah, that's not right. It's not that bad.
Well, the very first line on the stage.
It's maybe no. I kind of liked it your way. How you shyly placed your eyes on me. You know that I. Okay, keep going down. Practice. If frown is shown, then that's the one. So. If you're never hurt, or as if you're never hurt, as if you're never down, shall I be the one for you who pinches you softly but sure? ? If frown is shown, then I will know that you are no dreamer. What in the
that's
fetch? What in the fetch? Are you even saying? That's crazy.
Wow.
So yeah, that particular song, the lyrics are really weird. But I like the melody a lot.
Sweet.
If frown is shown, then.
If frown is shown. No, you are not a dreamer. Well, Cynthia, that was a good question.
That was a very good question, actually.
It's the one we have not addressed before.
Okay, Captain Awesome.
Yeah, do you think the desire for games to be open world sandbox is a permanent trend? I feel that games are just throwing that out there in place of quality, story, and characters, and people eat it up. I would much rather have a 30 to 40 hour streamlined game on rails than a 200-hour adventure where you walk around in empty fields for 90% of it. It's starting to feel like I'm in the minority.
I don't think you are. I think there's a lot of people who are beginning to feel this way. And I think you see trends in gaming that come and go.
Just
something is done that hasn't been done before, and it's like, whoa, that's so cool. There's so much potential. People start working on making that as interesting as possible, and then it reaches some kind of ceiling where it's like, it's not, you can't really go further with it because you can't populate your big world with enough things to keep it interesting. And so it's like, well, people start to see the problems with that, and
it's just what happens with that. I think every art form is people iterate on stuff that's been done recently. And so that iteration will carry out to its natural conclusion, and then somebody else will have hit on something else real cool that people are going to want to iterate on again. So,
I think No Man's Sky may have jumped the shark on this whole
the procedurally generated
sandbox
world exploration concept.
Yeah, where it's like not.
It's not.
People
it's like
it's not always awesome.
Exactly, it's not meaningful.
And I think that when we were kids growing up, the popular games were like platformers, right?
Yeah.
And when Halo came out, everything changed.
Yep.
Halo came out, and it was like, here it is. Yeah. This is what a major blockbuster game is now, right here.
Yeah.
And that's like everyone jumped on that for 10 years. And then that wore off. People kind of got, I don't want to say sick of it, because Call of Duty is still the most popular game that comes out every year.
Yeah. Right.
But there's a growing number of people who are sick of that and want something else. I feel like MOBAs are kind of rising.
Yes, right now MOBAs are
getting huge. Getting really big. And I think that games go through trends all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't think that an open world sandbox is something that we're going to see dominate adventure games
I feel like it works really well for some games. I feel like Grand Theft Auto will be this forever.
Yeah.
And Grand Theft Auto, again,
what
one of
it
the
is.
top selling games of all
Yeah,
time. But people always
right.
want to emulate something that's successful.
Yes,
And
that's
so
what
as
people,
long as they are successful, you're going to have people trying to do that.
That's what I think the problem is. I don't think we should point at open world sandbox and be like, "Ooh, this leads to 90% of empty fields," and like it's a sandbox. That's the problem. I think it's all about the implementation and the ideas that of the game itself being whether they work in under that construct or not, right? So. There are some games you're going to play where it's going to like, why does this have to be so big? I feel like most of the time I'm just running around getting from place to place. Obviously, whatever that developer didn't work in a sandbox open world, philosophy.
I feel like those games work really well when they take place in a city, like sandbox
Like
type
one
games.
big city.
Yeah, because cities are just crazy dense. If you think of if you're in New York City and you can walk 100 feet and see all different kinds of people and all different kinds of shops and stores, cars driving by, it's just like really, really concentrated. If you try and do that in like what Final Fantasy 15 did with a lot of it, where you're out in the middle of the desert. Okay, sure, what happens in real life out in the middle of the desert? Fetching nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
So to make it still feel believable, is more difficult to balance out those interactions. Like I remember playing the demo of 15 and being like, I wish I could fight something right now. There's nothing to fight. If I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, I'd just go punch someone in the face who was like right next to
your
me.
own fight
And just make it happen right there. But so I think they work very well for cities. Like densely populated cities. I think they have a way harder time working. Red Dead does a good job of it in a more sparsely populated environment, but I think it's a challenge. It's an uphill battle when you're not in a city with your sandbox game.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to have cities and wilderness in the game. That's going to limit the size your cities can be. And I think that in a fantasy setting that can work because in real life, cities weren't like as huge as they are in like today's modern society where they have like millions and millions of people living in one place. That's just kind of not how they couldn't support that back then. But I think that for modern day settings, Grand Theft Auto, maybe whatever this Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be,
Or even
you can have
Sleeping Dogs, games like that.
Well, I think even like Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which took place just in Rome.
Yeah.
Like those work pretty well. Like just really, really big cityscapes. I haven't played the Legend of Heroes series yet. It's something I really want to do. You're playing Trails in the Sky.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've heard that they do really well is that like all the NPCs can have like their own lives, their own stories, right? And whether you participate or not in them, they keep doing it. I think that if that's something you really like and you want to see more of that in games, it's really hard to do that in open world, especially cities where like all the characters are mostly there to give the illusion that it's a modern day city and there are millions of people living in it. And you can't just go talk to everybody, right? So it depends on what the core concept of your game is. Is your game about talking to people, doing quests? If that's the case, then it could possibly lead to an open world sandbox feeling very empty for you because there's all this space, but you can't populate it with all of these meaningful people and all have individual stories and that kind of thing. There's going to have to be filler people just there to give the illusion of the scale of the world. But
I think it's a product of like we were just talking about this recently, Case, but humans are good at thinking linearly, but not exponentially. So, for example, like I was talking about, like when you look at a flock of birds flying, and if you're counting up the number of birds, it's like, there's 3 birds high, 3 birds across. That's like 3 times 3. That's 9. It's about 9 birds. But if that flock of birds is even 1 bird in the z depth, you're off by a factor of 2.
A lot, yeah.
You're off by a factor of 2. If it's even two bird, if it's a 3 bird depth, you're off by a factor of 3. Very quickly. And so what happens with these kinds of games, like what Trails in the Sky does do a good job of, but it's like, okay, you have this guy, well then here's these conditions, here's how the world is going to change. He's going to need to have a different thing to say every time. And all of a sudden your script is like Mass Effect 3 where it's like bigger than the Bible, because of that exponential. And I think people who plan these things in the past have screwed up by thinking linearly about something that was actually exponential in the development process. I think Final Fantasy 15 totally may have fallen into that type of trap. So it is. I believe it is possible for these types of sandbox games to include all those great kind of interactive elements and still feel like they've got all these sub little storylines and interesting things here. But the question is, how much time is a developer going to have to put in, and then how much time is the average person going to play it even? So if they've like created 1,000 hours of content, but most people are going to play 20 hours of it, that's a freaking waste of development time. Like huge waste. So that's where your on rails stuff is more effective development time. I think you can make more games.
Yeah.
You know, we finally see 7, 8, and 9. Wham, bam, bam. Right? Some good games.
Yeah. Within like 4 years.
Yes. So, I think this sandbox thing might be part of the reason why current gen games are taking so
longer.
freaking long.
Because
they feel the need to force things like that into their game that maybe don't fit.
And, there are some games that do it extraordinarily well. The Witcher 3 is one of them. You have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of NPCs you can talk to and get side quests from. And there are also a lot of NPCs you can't talk to at all. They're just people populating the space, just walking around. You can bump into them and they'll be like, hey, what the fetch? But, like, there are a lot of people you can't interact with. And in traditional JRPGs, it's like you can basically go talk to any person you see, but there's like 30 people living in a village,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough to say. It just depends on what the core of your game is. Like, what is the game about? In Assassin's Creed, the game is about, like, climbing stuff, maybe some stealth elements, assassinating a single guy, like making a plan on how to do that or whatever. So it's like the people populating it don't matter.
Kind of inconsequential.
It doesn't matter that you can't talk to them. The core of the experience, the reason you're playing the game is not to talk to people and do quests for people and help people out. Whereas in like JRPGs, that's a large element of what side quests are. So, one criticism a lot of people will throw at Final Fantasy 15 in terms of its world is that it kind of feels lifeless or like there's not a lot going on in it. But I think that comes maybe from the expectation of the series, but also the genre it traditionally fits in, where the game is about talking to people and finding out what to do. Like that's a big part of it on top of, its battle system and stuff. But I mean, like when you go to a new village, you go talk to every single person and they give you hints about where to go. And so it's like, oh, all these people here, and I think that like Trails in the Sky and that series sort of like have taken the next step in the evolution of that kind of mechanic where every person feels like they're their own individual and they have their own life going on, and that's really cool. But like, could you do that for a city populated by 2 million people? Of course not. So they don't, and that's why that game's not a big open world sandbox, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No,
so
you do have a lot of like freedom to go all over the place, but yeah, it's mostly when you return back to a city that it's like, oh, things are a little different. People are saying different stuff.
And those, I mean, again, I haven't played it, but those cities don't feel like sprawling, like
they are.
Enormous.
They are bigger cities than like most, like bigger than Dragon Quest cities. I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, but the ones I haven't been to the biggest city in the game yet, apparently. But
another way,
I'm trying to get like the second town that you get to is way bigger than your first little starter town, and it has. I want to say it has like 30 people in it, maybe 30 to 40, something like that.
So like, yeah, you can't have a city that feels like realistic in terms of like the amount of people in it if you're going to do it that way. But what's more important to you and what's more important to the developer? That neither one is like the right way to do it. It's just about what is it that you want to do with your game. I think that one way that you could kind of navigate around that somewhat is I really love the way that they laid out, is it Trino in Final Fantasy IX?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it...
Which one are you talking about?
Where at night?
Not the night. Well, any city, I guess it's true. Also,
Lindblom.
Lindblom. I love
travel.
Lindblom. Is that
Yeah.
you leave a screen and it implies you went really far. But like the background image, like the what do you call it? The pre-rendered image shows this gigantic city back there.
Yeah.
So it still feels like there's this huge city, and there's just a lot of it I don't ever see.
Yeah, you're just going from one
Well,
square to the
it's
next.
sort of like that corridor out into free area type thing we were talking about last time.
So where you have the area you
they
can
skipped
move
it
around in,
almost,
and then you skip like 12 miles of city, and then you go here.
Yeah.
Which I have to say, especially the first time I played 9, it confused the crap out of me.
Oh, right.
I was pretty confused by that, especially when you're supposed to be chasing down the monsters and stuff.
Yeah.
Where the F am I right now?
I do agree.
that's
There is,
confusing.
at least at first, a little bit of a sense of like, holy crap, like how you're trying to in your brain to work out like where this is in relation to where you were.
that doesn't connect as well.
I mean, eventually you can sort of like get it down when you explore enough, but yeah, there is at least initially a little bit of a like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed by this.
But it's not like in Kingdom Hearts where they've got a trolley going 3 houses up and down, for like the 5 people in town that you never see.
Yep. And is it Twilight Town?
I think it's Twilight Town.
Yeah. And that's hilarious. And it's constantly running. Like, what a waste of government resources. Wait till someone gets on it, then go.
They need Donald Trump as president, come in there and shut it down, right?
He'll end the controversial trolley system.
The trolley to nowhere.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I don't think it'll be a permanent trend. Well, I don't think
so
it'll be a
either.
permanent trend, but I don't think that it will ever go away. Like,
No, because it's always, I mean, even go back to Legend of Zelda, this type of game is
Even the
existed.
very first one,
Because
yeah.
there's a place for it, right? But
Yeah.
people are abusing it for sure.
Well, it's almost like the PlayStation and N64 era kind of... You didn't see those types of games on those systems because, I don't know, everyone wanted 3D models and there just wasn't enough space for everything. But then once you get past that, then a PS2, and it's like, okay, now we can open things up again and still keep our 3D aesthetic. But yeah, because like in the 80s, there were several games that were open world like that, more or less.
So give him Captain Awesome.
All right.
Roberto Szek.
Roberta Schick, yes.
Do you think Nintendo will focus more on multiplayer games or experiences now that they plan to implement a paid online service? That was a good question.
But does that mean they'll have more than they had before?
How many people are going to pay for the online service?
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe is going to be a determining factor in that. Like,
Because right now you have Splatoon 2 and ARMS, right?
ARMS.
Is there
Yeah.
Mario Kart 8? Probably.
Well, it depends on how many people are going to be playing Street Fighter 2 on
Ultra.
I
or whatever.
guess you can technically do that too. So
I mean, at least initially they're going to have
yeah.
like four games that we know of right now. I mean, who knows how many games are going to be announced and come out by the end of the year? They say they have 80 games in development. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would think at least a number of those will come out this year that are not announced yet. But
Maybe that's why the online service is free for the first half of the year.
I anticipate
Because they
paying.
won't have many games.
Well, that's true because they're not charging until fall. Yeah. I anticipate paying for the online service strictly for Splatoon. I would pay for it. There's not another game out there that I can think of. I would pay for that service to play online.
Yeah.
Like Mario Kart 8's fun to play online,
But I wouldn't pay for it.
I've already played the crap out of it. Yeah, and I would.
I think
ARMS, we'll see how ARMS
I think it might be safe to say that in the short term they're planning on launching that service and having as many games as they can that support it. But how many people in the long run end up paying for the service, I think will determine whether that becomes like an ongoing supported like thing they focus on a lot. So like
I think
I don't know. Like it's really hard to say because I have no data that says like Xbox Live is this supported because they have this many people paying for it, or whether...
What's tricky though is I feel like the Call of Duty games they drive a significant portion of that, especially
sure.
that they're
Of
the
the
top
Xbox
selling
Live,
games
totally.
every year.
So there's like one title that's sort of like
that most people pay
most
for,
people
yeah.
pay for the service
For
so that
that
they
one.
can use that in that game, and then
Yeah.
that sort of like gives them the ability to
do whatever
support all
other,
these other games
stuff.
as well.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
It's weird. Like
You
I
gotta
feel
get
like
Call of Duty on the Switch.
gotta
and
get it on
be like-
Switch. I feel like the existence of ARMS does hint that Nintendo is probably looking to create more multiplayer online type of content.
Smash
And
Brothers
they've
could
traditionally,
do
Smash. If Smash could actually have a good online mode.
Games that require super fast connection, I guess, like really quick
Low
reflexes
latency
and
and-
low latency, those are very difficult to implement over online. I think that's why first-person shooters do so well online, because you can kind of have ways to cheat that a little, and every now and then it becomes apparent that, like, whoa, the game thought I was here and I died, but I was actually here, and that can be frustrating. But for the most part, you don't notice it. Right?
I also think that
Mario Kart 8 does a good job.
At least
there, too.
recently, they've been trying to, I guess there's kind of two ways of doing it, right? Like you have one person hosting the session that is in the game,
and that person will usually
and that
win.
person's connection
That's how they
speed
used to do Call of Duty
dictates it.
stuff,
But
yeah.
now they're moving more towards like dedicated servers.
Well,
right?
I think a lot of it's Amazon
so.
Web Services,
Yes, 'cause
because that's
they're gonna-
scalable. So it's like, how many servers do we need?
'Cause
And
that's
then
what
they don't need to
Splatoon's
own
been
them; they're
using.
renting the server time from Amazon. Yeah, that's what they do with Splatoon. That's true. Because that does it. Yeah,
What-
that is
how
a
does
huge
how does
problem with the
latency
local
play
hosting.
into Splatoon?
Okay, if you're playing against Japanese players, it does appear that the ping is worse in North America, that they're playing on servers that are located closer to Japan. So
Well, there's
that
such a
is
small
problem.
country. I mean, servers in Tokyo, even if you live in Osaka, is
Yeah,
way
you'd have to
closer
play on a server in
than
like
us to
Honolulu
LA.
or something. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They'd have to try and find
balance
the middle.
it. Yeah,
And then if
So-
someone just happens to live in Hawaii, then well,
I don't know.
they'll
man.
do very well.
We need
that
a
round.
jump in technology for this. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
like
Speed it up.
to get it faster.
I just don't see
or
games like Street Fighter 2
to lock
or
it
Smash
somewhere.
Brothers really doing well online yet.
I mean, Smash. Yeah.
They technically had Smash Online for the Wii U. It just
I was thinking about this though, because
Was
you know,
not
people
very good.
they're talking about like you pay and you get your one whatever game that may or may not include
Yeah,
some
yeah.
expanded multiplayer element, right? Like a classic game. And then the next month is some other game. I almost wonder if they were doing that to concentrate the audience. Like, for example, let's say it's Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah,
It's the
that'd
game
be
for that
sweet.
month, and you can play it online.
or GoldenEye 64.
Well, or GoldenEye, but what my point is that I feel like you're going to get a higher concentration of people actually online to solve matchmaking issues, because it's like otherwise you have Virtual Console, people can buy Mario Kart that works online to play against other people, but if you don't have that many people playing, then it doesn't matter. Like
So if
you're
you force people into the monthly,
so if you're forcing, hey, everyone play this game this month. Now there's
Yeah.
lots of people.
now
to-
there's a lot of people.
I don't
playing.
know.
That's interesting.
I
That might
mean-
be part of the reasoning.
I have no idea. I still think it's dumb, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really have no idea what Nintendo's thinking right now with a lot of what they're doing.
For
If
the
they're gonna
question,
charge
though,
for it,
like-
they need to justify. it.
Exactly.
They
Like,
need to justify
will
it.
Nintendo focus more on multiplayers now that they're charging? Like, they better. If they're going to start paying for it now, they better start, focusing more on implementing a good online system with, a vast options of things to do.
Because the only time in my
Because,
my
yeah.
life that I have paid for online service like this was Xbox Live,
And
play
that
Call
was
of
for
Duty.
Call of Duty. For one game.
and then
yeah.
we did play Red Dead Redemption a little
I
bit.
think
on
that's
Oh,
when I
yeah.
bought
Yeah.
it. I bought it so
That
that I
was
could play
online.
Red Dead Redemption online. And then after that, I had it for a while. And what else did I play online? I don't remember.
Splinter Cell.
I think I might have done
Conviction?
Splinter Cell online, maybe. Maybe I just did co-op on that too. I don't know. Like local co-op. But
Yeah.
there's very few games that I've ever really played online. And now that I'm into like PC gaming primarily,
You're good. You're
if
covered.
if I'm really gonna play a game online with somebody, it's probably gonna be the PC version of it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Well, typing to talk.
yeah,
or the-
like Final Fantasy
communication
11, right? I would
like,
never
it's
want to
weird,
play
yeah.
the console. I did play the console. That's what I bought it for. Sorry, I bought Xbox Live so I could play Final Fantasy 11 with my friend Kenny, and I wanted to have the little thing that you attach to the controller,
keyboard
the
thing?
keyboard on
keyboard,
it, so that I
yeah.
could talk.
I remember that.
So
I remember that.
They made a GameCube controller like that too. Remember
Yeah.
for Fantasy Star?
I remember
Yeah.
for
Had a keyboard in the
Phantasy Star
middle
Online.
with the handles on it.
crazy.
Oof.
Oh my god.
I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. We will see. That's it.
Sorry, dude. We
will see.
I mean, I hope so. If people are going to pay for it, I really hope that they
Yeah,
have
they
some
better.
good focus on it. But I would think that that's the plan, at least. If they're going to implement an online service, that they're at least aware enough to know that they
Yeah.
better like nail it.
Splatfests better not end.
No,
after
they
1
better have
year.
Splatfest going for like the next 5 years.
5 years at
straight.
least. If they're gonna like be charging for online services but not doing Splatfest, like that's bullcrap.
I know, bullcrap.
And once a month, every month, we're paying for this monthly, guys.
It's like the day after
month.
they like charge, so you have to.
You've got to go.
You have to
next
re-up,
month.
or you don't get another Splatfest.
They might actually do that.
All right, that was a good one, Roberto. Thank you.
Okay. All right, now
Well,
for
wheels
the
today.
final fantasy. Now for the final event.
Fantasy.
We're going to do this kind of from now on, and we're going to have you guys participate in this if you like. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a game called Scenes from a Hat. They did. It's like an improv game. They did it a lot on
Whose line?
Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Whose Line? Yeah.
Where the audience would they would basically submit like scenes or scenarios that they would pull from a hat, and then the actors would have to improvise a scene that was chosen by the audience. So we've kind of done this as an example for you. We put some like scenarios into this helmet, and these are like video game related development kind of scenarios. So this will be like the dev hat, right? So like, you dive in there as a developer. You're going to try and answer or give an explanation for what you would do given this wacky sort of scenario.
A little more acting and stuff. You guys saw our Imaginary War. Well, a lot of you saw our Imaginary Warzone stuff after we did our recent unboxing and things.
better
and
have.
So yeah,
right here.
that's something we have fun doing, anyways. So, but guys, you can submit. So while you're watching this, like think of scenarios and probably best to. Gosh, it would be nice if it was not like a comment on the video, so people know the one's coming up. It would be nice if it was like
You could send us
an email or.
On Twitter, on Discord, or on Facebook. You can send personal messages, whichever one you care to use. If you have a Facebook account, send it to our Dark Pixel Games Facebook page. If you are on Twitter, you can send it to any one of us as a personal message, or to the Dark Pixel TV Twitter handle, or join our Discord server, which is in the description. You become friends with us. You have to actually submit like request to be a friend.
Right.
Request to be a friend will, immediately or as soon as we can, we'll definitely like make sure that happens.
So why would a
then-
YouTube comment not work?
Oh, you could if
guess
you really
you could
want
do
to. You
that
could do a
too.
YouTube comment. If possible, try to not do that, just because that would be keep it a complete surprise. Like no one had read that one earlier, kind of thing.
Oh, okay, okay.
But if you're like, I don't want to go to that hassle, fine, just
Do it.
you tweet it.
All
You
right.
just comment it up.
Reach
All right,
in and grab
let's
a scenario.
see. Let's
Should we do just one or more than one today?
Let's each do
Let's
one. Let's
just
each
do
do
one.
one. All right,
And
Kaysen, you want
I
to?
would rather not go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
Because I'm still trying to grasp the idea of what
Oh, okay,
we're
okay.
doing here.
All right, I'll go first. You are Shigeru Miyamoto from an alternate reality where Mario is armed with a gun because he wanted to have Mario use a gun in the first Mario game.
He did it.
What does your latest game entail? All right. So, I am Shigeru Miyamoto. I guess I'll just be talking to you guys. You guys are my colleagues.
I'm
co-workers.
I'm Takashi Tezuka.
I'm Eiji Aomuma.
like, dudes, okay.
So,
you know,
so we're at lunch. And,
we're eating our
and-
bento box.
and we're having some drinks. It's
Got my drink here.
just super chill.
Breath of the Wild is coming to a close, and I'm so glad that we're finally
I know.
able to release this game this year.
Aren't you so glad that the timeline for Breath of the Wild, you didn't have to disclose it to anybody?
Oh,
Just keep them guessing.
Absolutely.
After this,
We'll make it
the
up 5 years
timeline
later.
will make complete sense to everyone, and everyone will be satisfied.
Everyone's
And
gonna
I'm
be
so
sad.
glad that that will finally not be a problem anymore.
Oh, indeed.
So, guys, I've been thinking really hard about this. You know how we made that one Mario game where you could shoot Yoshi with a bazooka and kill him?
yeah, in the back
That
of
was-
the head while you were writing him.
That was that was my favorite Mario game that you.
I know, right? And all those stupid people online writing about how violent it is and like how we're just promoting violence in children and stuff like that.
So
So,
Yoshi's
I was
not
thinking,
real.
like, get this, like they're gonna love this, right? In this game, Yoshi's teeth, he's gonna have teeth, but they're all guns. Each one's a barrel. And if you pull back on his head like really hard, just and he's just and then so that way you're rewarded for not killing him with the bazooka, but you still get to
Okay.
kill others. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So
Like-
yeah, let the players decide.
See, and I was inspired to do this because I was riding a horse. as a child one time, and I just pulled really hard on the mane, and the horse just
And he gleeked.
He
He gleeked all over your mom's
and I was
face.
like, there's some inspiration right there. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Something
I could see Yoshi ate a red shell, but he got some that stuck in his teeth, and that's
Little
the
piece of red shell.
a red shell, a red shell shard, and
Yeah.
it can home on the enemies.
Yes, that's okay. That's going in.
But it has to be violent. Like, I'm not producing this game unless it is
No,
violent.
because we're
like
evil
when the
Nintendo.
Koopas die, they splat
Yeah, yeah.
because it's a gun.
Well, of
that's
course
what
we'll keep
happened.
the screams in, and all.
Yes, the screams.
People love the screams.
It's just
Very
normal.
important.
All those.
So that's how Mario is shooter mechanics.
That's alternate
what's
universe
gonna happen
right there.
In the next alternate Shigeru Miyamoto game.
OMG.
Yeah.
All right, this one is: you are Tetsuya Nomura. How would you convince the board to make a Final Fantasy VII remake into a musical?
All right, we are the board.
Coming up to
Oh,
talk to the great. Square
welcome,
board.
welcome, Tetsuya. So I hear you have a new idea.
Well, you're aware of the problems that we've been having communication. People are not really aligning with the ultimate vision of the game. And I've begun to feel that it's possible because the emotional content is just not landing with people.
Okay. I thought it was because Tifa's boobs weren't the same size as an old.
Oh, or her
version.
skirt wasn't as short as I
Maybe
wanted
that's
it
not
to
it.
be.
Is it really that, or is it the fact that she has not found her voice yet? And see, here's what I propose.
Okay. Hold on.
The music of Final Fantasy games has always been one of its defining features, one of the things the fans look forward to the most.
Yeah, Eyes on Me, the greatest lyrics
The greatest.
That we've
cranked
ever
out.
I
written.
prefer the English
Right?
version, but
Yes, absolutely, and that just drives home the thematic content. If we can add lyrics to the music, if the characters can themselves voice in song, in music, the very
see.
things that they feel, and give context to the scenes.
So they'll
Would
visit,
it not?
they'll visit a recording studio at some point in the story, is what you're saying.
Have you seen Les Miserables?
I actually didn't.
Is that not? In some form
I know
or
what you're
other.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a musical.
Is that? Did you not
Jack-
cry when you
So
saw the play?
Tetsuya, are you saying you want every character to sing everything they say?
Yes, every word in song,
This is so
And-
novel.
and combining the dialogue and the writing with the power of Nobuo Uematsu's compositions, would that not just doubly emotionally impact the players?
Absolutely, it would. But I have a better idea. I'm going to one-up you there. We should make it into a phone game. A musical phone game.
Wait a minute.
That is gold. That's printing
A
money.
rhythm. We turn it into a
yes.
musical rhythm-based game.
And you have to push the buttons with the
and
words. Yeah.
This is genius. This
Cool.
is exactly how it should be.
This is how it
I'm
went.
thinking we need to bring Tabata in here to co-direct this project.
Yeah, sorry, you're fired.
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
I just had a realization.
What if there was a game where
You're feeling
it's
it.
all
now,
of the
you're feeling
Final
it.
Fantasy battle music, but like they're like singing lyrics, like while they're- and it's rhythm based, so you have to like press the buttons in
Get the attacks
sequence.
in time.
That could be pretty sweet. Game. So like you attack, but like it's
Isn't that kind
there's
of
almost
the-
there's
rhythm?
almost
Isn't
like
it?
rhythm is
an
similar, right?
aggressive like part of you that can like
percussion,
the
like,
percussive
yeah.
like element could be like
Right.
you're attacking, but you're like hitting at the exact moment.
Switch motion controls.
And while you're doing that, you know, like whoa, they're like singing while they attack.
You really got into.
I might
you
actually
really
enjoy
got
it.
into Nomura's character, right?
I
there.
might
Yeah,
actually
good work.
enjoy
Saw
that.
the world the way
My,
Nomura sees
I
it.
know, and that changed my mind. I used to think it was a ridiculous idea, and now I think that could actually be kind of sweet. I like legitimately think that would be kind of cool. Like,
Guys, we made a broken mic. I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, it's worth a try. No one's done it before.
my
If it
gosh.
works in the setting of a play or a TV show or a movie, why can't it work in a video
it would
game?
just be the major battles across the Final Fantasy series. So it's just battle music, and it's percussive, and it's fast paced, and there's an aggressive nature to it, and you're beating with the rhythm and stuff, and I don't know, they don't have to sing, but it would still be a cool game to have all these different battles, but it's all rhythm based.
And that's how you do combos.
because
Because
the music's so perfect.
How
for it.
different is that from Theater Rhythm, though?
I actually have
I've
never
never
played
actually watched the
Theater Rhythm.
gameplay. How
Maybe that is what
Maybe
that
that's
is.
Maybe
Maybe that's exactly what that game is.
that game may have come out from.
I'm seeing like Rhythm Heaven sort of scenario, like at
where
least
you're
the way it's
controlling like
presented.
stuff's happening and you're just trying to find what the
There's a
hammer's falling or whatever.
behemoth, and you're hitting with a sword back and forth between like Cloud and I don't know, like and Titus or something. There's like bam, 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 bam. It's like juggling a behemoth like back
It's like
and
that
forth.
tennis one with the dogs in Rhythm Heaven.
And they're like on the planes.
Yeah.
And then they like fly further back and forth to like lengthen or shorten the amount of time between the beats.
Oh, dang.
I believe that could be a sweet
Getting
game.
onto something. All right, Case. What you got here?
Okay. So I'm realizing something here. I think this is the way Whose Line did it. I don't know that we're supposed to read this out loud. I think we're supposed to read it and then do it, and then the other person guesses.
They
you're
would show
Tetsuya
it.
Nomura.
They would
too.
impose
Pitching.
it over like with a.
So everyone else knew.
The audience would know.
I don't know exactly.
I think there's a few variations on it, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'll just go and read this because that's what we've been doing.
Oh.
The company wants you to make a pirate trivia racing pirate trivia racing game. How do you present on stage at E3?
So you're presenting to the world your
All right.
pirate trivia racing game.
Thank you so much for being here. As you know, we're a company that prides ourselves in making the greatest games of all time. Nobody in the world has done what we've been capable of doing. We are the greatest innovators in the world. And as such, we feel the need to bring to you guys a game, but not just any game. You have never heard of a game like this before, I promise. Let's watch the footage. Okay, wait. Now, as you can see, a pirate racing
Trivia.
a pirate racing trivia game is what the world needs. Now, you're wrong if you're thinking anything else. Once again, we are the greatest company. I am the greatest game maker of all time. And I can tell you that combining trivia, Trivial Pursuit, most popular board game ever, of all time, right? Trivial Pursuit, Pirates, the most popular things of all time, and racing, the most popular, NASCAR in America, the most popular sport of all time. Combining the three of them into one game is not only my smartest idea ever, you are going to buy it for $80 day one. That's how every E3 presentation goes.
That was very aggressive.
As-
You're definitely telling them.
I'm sorry. This is what I think of most E3
As-
presentations. They just give themselves accolades over and over.
That's true. And the one thing I was thinking of when we wrote that down is like a cart style, like a Mario Kart, where in order to get the item, you have to answer a pirate trivia, like fetching like
Who was Blackbeard's father?
yeah, Blackbeard.
Oh my gosh.
Blackbeard's father's name was what? And it's like, oh, fetch, you get it wrong, and like you don't get an item, and it's like, oh crap.
And then you have to keep going.
And then like somebody knocks you off the stage. Do you like rebound? But it's like pirate trivia is like constantly popping up. If you don't get it right, then like you get jacked.
If you get it wrong, your car spins out or something.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well,
That
guys.
way, it's a racing game with brains behind it.
Yeah,
You've got
you
to
can't
answer
just
trivia
be,
to win the race. You can't just be a good racer.
You can't just be some idiot who's good at Mario Kart.
You cannot be an idiot who's good at racing. You have to be a smart
You have to
person
be smart and good at
who's
racing.
good at racing.
And you're a pirate. I guess
Knowledgeable.
that's just
I should say
aesthetic,
a knowledgeable person
Knowledgeable.
about pirates.
Oh, man.
And all trivia about pirates.
Well, guys, we plan on doing that moving forward. We might change it up a little bit. We might try to guess what you were doing.
Oh yeah, that could be one way.
That would be fun to do.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, we're going to come up with like a whole bunch more of those. So, we've got a lot of crazy ideas up our sleeves. But any ideas that you guys have, crazy, ridiculous scenarios, maybe even things that have actually happened before. Like, how did that conversation actually go down, when they canceled, whatever game project, like Scalebound? What did they say? What was Platinum saying to Microsoft? Like, when Microsoft finally was like, fetch you, we're freaking done with this.
Well, they really didn't want the character to be wearing headphones the whole time. Like, they really
They're
didn't
like,
want
take
that.
the headphones off, man. You keep
And
putting the headphones in
they're
and
like,
all
no,
the
the headphones part of his
It's like,
character.
no, that's important. Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
Bill Gates hates the headphones. Anyways, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a new thing, so we'll see. Feel it up. Have fun with it.
All right, dudes. This podcast has come to a close. Podcast number 38. Hope you enjoyed it.
If you are listening to this audio only, maybe you missed some context from our our acting there at the end. There'd be body language and things that may not come across, but hopefully it's still funny. You can watch us on YouTube at Dark Pixel Gaming. That's where our game analysis goes. And if you'd like to see some of our filmmaking projects, head over to Dark Pixel on YouTube. Lately, a lot of people on the channel here have been enjoying our Imaginary Warzone videos. Been commenting on them, commenting here, telling us they like it. Glad you guys liked it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
Peruse them at your leisure.
So that's like our original kind of series we have on the channel, but we have a lot of other videos based on like existing ideas. We have a Star Kart video, which is Star Wars and Mario Kart mashed up into one thing. It's entirely CGI rendered video. Lots of other cool stuff over there. So feel free to check it out if you have time. And we'll see you guys again on Friday for the live stream. Have a nice day.
Peace.
See ya.